Okay, so where do we start? How about a record? All to start with rock and roll. As my friend used to say, my good friend John would say, back in America, he said that when you move, the last thing you pack is the first thing you unpack. The stereo. Jethro Tull? WEEN. Oh, yeah. I wanted to tell the WEEN story. Okay, WEEN. Live. Okay, so here's what 1998, 1999, I was in Berlin by chance. And I met a good friend of mine, German guy. And we hung out at his apartment, and he was having plans to go to a WEEN concert in a pretty cool little club in Berlin. I think it was 98. And the city was still transforming, you know. They were starting to put things together, but a lot of the bars were illegal and small, and so was this club. And for a pretty big band. Well, anyway, I remember I didn't have a ticket to this concert, and it was sold out, but I was a little bit confident that I would be able to purchase a seat or a ticket to entry on the street from somebody who's selling, because in America, there's usually it's possible to buy one single ticket to any concert outside, because people have plans, or the baby can't find a babysitter, or they don't feel like coming or driving. There's usually some reason. And one person normally can find a ticket, but this chance, no chance to get inside. It was so sold out, it was impossible to go inside that concert. And so I had a sad moment where my buddy and his friends were going inside, and I didn't have a ticket because, you know, I tried to get tickets and then I was unable to find one. And so eventually they had to go in to the concert, and we separated. It was quite a little sad moment, honestly, because I was by myself outside. Well, then what happened is a couple American guys appeared, and we started talking a little bit, and I think I made a joke because they told me they can get me in on a fake ticket. And what they had done is, this was the old day before electronic, tickets. It was actually a paper ticket. And they went inside. One guy went inside, went to the balcony and dropped his ticket down. And his friend did the same routine, dropped the ticket down. All right? And I caught the third. And I went inside, and the doorman knew what was going on. And he said, "Hey!" And I just went in. It was so sold out, they didn't find me. I didn't listen. And I was in then. I saw him, I'm looking around, totally sold out, totally full concert. And I saw my buddy, and he couldn't believe that I was inside for Falston ticket. That was a cool moment. But it kind of shows how creative American people are. Because when American people see of an obstruction like sold out concert, no chance to get in, their minds often start working. How do I work around this and contrive a solution? Whereas most people, especially Germans, take no for an answer. Not because they follow orders so much. That's a myth that came out of from post-World War II. Germans are not the kind of people who just follow orders. That's a myth. What German people like to do, like in Corona, they like to work together to solve the problem. So it's in their best interest to give up their sovereignty as an individual, not do what they want to do, but work together as a nation and a group and contribute towards solving the problem. They don't follow orders. They sacrifice their individuality for the better of the country. That's the difference. Croatian people are kind of the opposite, in a way, from the Germans in this way. The Croatians, especially the Dalmatians, they like emergencies. I said that once before in an old episode. They know how to deal with emergencies. They're very good. That's when the individual egos are lost and sacrificed to the group. And for the one time you'll find in Dalmatia is during an emergency that each individual forgets himself and works together like one heartbeat, one mind, working together to deal with the emergency. And how they react as a group or as individuals is almost like it's controlled by one mind. Okay? Well, the Germans are not that way. Because what the Germans like to do is they like to plan ahead and be very analytical to find the solution the right way in advance so that the Germans do not have emergencies. The German people don't like emergencies. The Dalmatian people aren't so good at planning, but they're very good at emergencies. Germans are different that way from the Dalmatians. Well, anyway, after that concert was amazing. It was one of the best concerts I ever saw. Or maybe I would say the best concert I had seen in my life up to that point. I was so blown away. And maybe it was because how I got inside and the whole environment of almost missing it and seeing my buddy again when he met me and how thrilling this moment was. But what I remember from that WEEN concert was a fantastic show. And I looked for live albums by WEEN, bootlegs or official releases, that reminded me of that concert. And this is one of those records. And it's pretty good, but it does not, but I still don't get that sense of that concert recorded live. I don't know. If somebody knows a hard rock in 1998, 1999 WEEN recording live, I'd love to hear it. Because I remember seeing the band WEEN back in like 92. My brother invited me to a concert, and I was pretty young, just out of high school. And that band was playing in a bar in Des Moines. Well, actually, it wasn't a band at this point. It was two guys and a tape recorder. And they would hit play, and I don't know if it was the drum track or just the background music, but I think it was two fellas and a tape recorder mic'd. I think that was the band. Well, I didn't think much of them back then, but 7 years later, man, that concert kicked ass. Memorable. That's the WEEN story. Live at Stubbs, 2000. This should be similar. It was about the same era as the Berlin show, but I don't think I liked it so much. Or maybe I'm ruined, jaded because of the great experience.